Here we're going to take a look at some techniques and exercises that you'll hopefully find useful to play the tracks that we've got on the DVD. So we're going to begin with some groove exercises that are going to look at playing the bass drum on various points in the bar, some different 16th note placements that are really going to help with some of those funky 16th note grooves that Chad uses a lot of. And so in this first exercise, we're playing simple 8th note time with the hands, and we're looking at playing all of the E's, or second 16th notes of each beat on the bass drum. So just to give you an idea of where they're going to fall, if we talk through the 16th notes, they're going to sound like this. So 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So the E there, as you can hear, is the second note of each group of 4. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, etc. So if we play 8th note time with the hands, we're going to put that E on the bass drum without affecting the 8th notes here. 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Let's take that same approach now with the 4th 16th note of each beat. The A, as in 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Now let's combine those two. So we're going to play the E and the R. In other words, we're playing all of the upbeat 16th notes. So if we were to isolate the right hand and foot, we'd be playing all of the 16th notes between the two, as in 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Here are a couple of other useful figures. Again, just trying to get some independence there between the bass drum and the 8th note time on the hi-hat. Another useful one is playing the E and the and of each beat. So again, let's just hear the hi-hat and bass drum in isolation. They'll sound like this. So 3 E and a, 4 E and a. And again, another useful combination of two 16th notes is the and the Again, we'll start with just the hi-hat and bass drum, bringing the 2 and 4. 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So hopefully you'll find some of those exercises useful for playing the kind of funky grooves that Chad uses. Grooves that use combinations like this. Here's a few different ideas using the figures that we've just taken a look at. Chad will often place the snare drum at various points in the bar, not necessarily on beats 2 and 4, to create a funky feel, not dissimilar to that you might have heard by the James Brown drummers, for example. And so a few different points that are worth practicing and getting comfortable with are, for example, putting the snare drum on the 4/16th note of beat 1. So in other words, beat 2 is coming a little earlier. So something like that would sound like this. We can give beats 3 and 4 the same treatment. So we'll move it to the other end of the bar now. And that would sound like this. Here's another similar sounding example, and we've got a syncopated feel moving between the left hand and the bass drum in this example. You'll hear a lot of hi-hat punctuations in Chad's drumming, and we're going to look at a few examples here that will help you develop the ability to place those at various points in the bar. This first one we're going to take a look at is playing the 16th note immediately after the backbeat on 2 and 4. And we'll just play with a simple kick and snare pattern here. And we'll play it slowly at first. At that slower tempo, I'm still playing the hi-hat on beats 2 and 4 along with the snare. But as things speed up, it becomes easier to get rid of that note so you're ready to play the open hi-hat on the E or the second 16th note of 2 and 4. The next example takes things a step further, and we're basically opening the hi-hat on the E of every beat. So we're playing the bass drum along with the right hand here, and just maintaining the 2 and 4 in the left. So it's quite a syncopated figure because there are no downbeats in this. In this example, we're playing the E and the R of our last 2 beats in the bar. And you can play this 2 different ways, and it's worth practicing it both ways as well. You could play this using the right hand or the left hand. So I'll play it both ways slowly at first. Next up, we've got some fills similar to the ideas that Chad uses. This first one is a 3-beat figure, moving from the snare onto the toms. So let's first of all just feel it in 3/4 basically. 1, 2, 3. And now I'll play that in context so you hear it moving over the beat. Here's another 3/4 idea based around this descending move from the snare to the rack to the floor to the bass drum. And here's how that would sound in context. So it moves over the beat as a group of 3. These final exercises are useful for getting the left hand up to the crash cymbal. If you're used to doing most of your crashing leading with the right hand, to play a lot of the tracks that we've looked at here, you're going to need to have that ability to crash with this hand also. A good way of starting out with that would be to play a group of 8 notes, and you're going to crash the first note with the right hand. You're going to play all the next notes on the snare drum, and then the 8th note you're going to crash with this hand. So played slowly, it sounds like this. We could play that in a smaller group. So we're basically playing a group of 4 notes, and we're placing those as 1, 2, 3, 4, and cycling it round. And that would sound like this. We could also play that, playing the last 3 notes down the toms before the crashes. Again, let's go back to our group of 8 to try that. And that would sound like this. So hopefully you find these exercises and techniques useful for playing the tracks.